Part 1. What came before history? Human origins. You know, the world we live in today feels normal, familiar, like this is how humans have always lived. But it's not even close. For the vast majority of our history, life was totally different. What we take for granted now, food, safety, shelter, hot showers, snacks at midnight, all of that is brand new on the human timeline. Right now, we live in the most advanced and comfortable version of human existence that's ever existed. And that comfort gives us the luxury to forget just how hard it used to be, how we had to fight just to survive. But here's the kicker. We are the outliers. More than 99.99% of our past looked nothing like this. And before we go any further, let's clear up a common misconception. There's no such thing as a single human history. What we call history only covers the tiniest sliver of our existence. So let's rewind. Way back. Our story begins about 6 million years ago, when our evolutionary path split from the other great apes. That was the moment the Hominini tribe branched off, our first step toward becoming human. Then around 2.8 million years ago, the first members of our genus, Homo, appeared, the earliest humans. But they weren't alone. Today, we like to think of ourselves, Homo sapiens sapiens, as the only real humans. But back then, there were at least 6 other human species walking the Earth at the same time. Yeah, it was basically like living with intelligent aliens. Not only were they smart, but some of them were really successful. Take Homo erectus, for example. These guys survived for 2 million years. That's 10 times longer than modern humans have been around. Let that sink in. But today, they're all gone. The last of the other human species vanished about 10,000 years ago. Why? That's still a mystery. We know modern humans carry bits of Neanderthal and other ancient human DNA, so there was some mixing. But not enough to merge into one species. So, did our cousins lose out in the struggle for resources? Or were they wiped out in a series of small-scale genocides? We honestly don't know. What we do know is that at some point, only one human species remained, us. Let's go back again, about 2.8 million years. That's when early humans began using tools. But weirdly, not much progress happened for nearly 2 million years. Then, something huge changed everything. We learned to control fire. Fire was a game changer. It made food more nutritious through cooking, which helped fuel our brain development. It gave us warmth and light, letting us stay up longer and survive colder seasons. It scared off predators, and surprisingly, it also helped us hunt. Burning grasslands or trees would force small animals out of hiding. We could gather roasted nuts and tubers straight from the fire. Fire became a survival hack. By around 300,000 years ago, most human species were living in small hunter-gatherer groups. They used fire, crafted tools from wood and stone, planned ahead, even buried their dead. They weren't mindless creatures. They had culture. And maybe the most important part, they talked to each other. Probably not with fully developed languages like ours, but some kind of proto-language that allowed them to communicate, pass on ideas, and cooperate. Now here's a fun hypothetical. If you had a time machine, how far back could you go? Steal a baby, raise them today, and no one would even notice? That's still debated. Anatomically modern humans showed up around 200,000 years ago. But to raise someone who could behave and think like us? Most experts say you'd only be able to go back about 70,000 years. Before that, they might lack certain gene mutations needed for things like language and abstract thinking, 2 skills that totally define us. Then came a turning point. About 50,000 years ago, humans suddenly started innovating at a crazy pace. Tools got sharper, weapons more advanced, cultures more expressive and symbolic. Why? Because by this time, we had evolved what you could call a multi-purpose brain, and with it came language powerful enough to share thoughts and ideas in stunning detail. That changed everything. Now humans could cooperate flexibly in large groups. That's the real superpower. Not our strength, not our senses, but the ability to work together, adapt, and get creative as a group. Think about it. Beehives are highly organized, but rigid. Wolf packs are tight-knit, but small. Humans? We're somewhere in between, but we can scale up. Cities, nations, global teams. As our brains evolved, something new entered the world, the ability to expand, preserve, and build on knowledge. That's 3 big leaps. 1. Expand knowledge quickly. 2. Store that knowledge across generations. 3. Build on it over time. Until then, information was passed mainly through genetics, slow, random, and inefficient. And yet, even after all this brainpower and cooperation, human life didn't change all that much for the next 40,000 years. No cities, no writing, no factories. We were still hunter-gatherers, just a little smarter and better organized. It's easy to look back and judge, but that would be a mistake. Humans from 50,000 years ago were elite survival experts. They had detailed mental maps of their environment. Their senses were dialed in. They memorized plant types, animal behaviors, weather patterns. They crafted tools that required years of training and high-level motor skills. Physically, their bodies would rival Olympic athletes just from their everyday routines. And socially, they were far from primitive. They lived rich, interconnected lives within their tribes. Every single person needed a broad set of skills just to stay alive. In fact, early modern humans may have had larger average brain volumes than we do today. As a society, we know more now, but as individuals, they were probably sharper than us. And then, about 12,000 years ago, everything changed fast. Part 2. The birth of civilization. So around 12,000 years ago, something revolutionary started happening. Humans began to farm. It didn't start in just one place. It happened in multiple regions around the world, almost simultaneously. And this shift, called the agricultural revolution, completely transformed how humans lived. Before agriculture, survival required everyone to be a jack of all trades. You had to hunt, forage, make tools, know the land, and stay constantly alert. Every individual had to be physically and mentally tough. But once people started growing crops and domesticating animals, that all changed. Suddenly, not everyone had to be responsible for finding food. People could begin to specialize. Some focused on farming. Others crafted better tools. Some studied how to breed stronger crops or hardier animals. A few probably started tinkering and inventing things. As farming got more efficient, we produced more food than we immediately needed. For the first time in history, humans could store surplus food, especially grains, which last much longer than meat. And when you have food you can store, you need to protect it. So people began settling in tighter groups, building early forms of defense and organizing themselves. These small farming communities slowly turned into villages, then towns, then cities. That's how civilization began. It wasn't just about planting wheat. It was about creating a totally new way of life. As humans became more organized, everything started accelerating. The more efficient we got, the faster progress happened. Villages turned into cities, cities into kingdoms, and kingdoms into empires. And with all these people living close together, something amazing happened. We connected. And those connections created new opportunities, especially for one thing, sharing knowledge. With every new connection, ideas could spread faster. Cultures could collide and combine. People could build on each other's discoveries. Progress went exponential. Then, about 500 years ago, the world hit another gear. We entered the scientific revolution. Humans began to explore and explain the world with logic and experimentation. Math, physics, astronomy, biology, chemistry, they all took off. We went from guessing about the stars to calculating orbits, from herbal remedies to modern medicine. We started asking better questions and learning how to find real answers. And then came the Industrial Revolution. Machines, factories, mass production. It reshaped everything. We moved from hand tools to steam engines, from candlelight to electricity, from farms to factories to global cities. Each step made us more efficient. And as we produced more people could focus full-time on innovation, pushing humanity even further forward. And we didn't stop there. Revolutions kept coming. We built computers, at first big and clunky, then smaller and faster. Eventually, computers became something most of us carry in our pocket. With that came the rise of the internet, a web connecting the entire globe, putting the world's information at your fingertips. And that brings us to today. It's hard to even grasp how fast all of this happened. Let's break it down in terms of generations. Since the first human species emerged, about 125,000 generations. Since modern humans appeared, around 7,500 generations. Since civilization began, just 500 generations. Since we learned to do science, only 20 generations. Since the internet became widespread, just one generation. Think about that. Your lifestyle, your access to knowledge, medicine, transportation, technology, it's all incredibly recent. In fact, it's existed for less than 0.001% of human history. We now live in the most prosperous and technologically advanced era ever. We've reshaped the planet, altering everything from the atmosphere to the terrain. We've impacted almost every other animal species. We've created cities that glow at night, sending artificial stars into the sky. People have walked on the moon. We've sent robots to other planets. We've built telescopes that let us see billions of years into the past. Our knowledge has exploded. Today, the average high school student knows more about space and biology than a world-renowned scholar did just a few centuries ago. We've come a long, long way. But here's the twist. For all our progress, we're still basically the same species that wandered the savannah 70,000 years ago. Sure, we wear sneakers and carry smartphones, but underneath it all, we're still driven by the same instincts, the same emotions, the same curiosity. And we're building something huge, a skyscraper of human knowledge, technology, and culture. But we don't really know if we're building it on solid ground or if it's standing on quicksand. Part 3, the fragile future of an incredible species. So here we are, standing at the top of this towering structure built by countless generations before us. It's easy to think we've figured it all out, but the truth is, we're only just getting started. We're living in a world that would have seemed like pure magic just a few centuries ago. And yet, this modern life, our technology, our cities, our way of thinking, has only existed for a blink of an eye in the grand timeline of human existence. The reality? We have no idea where all of this is really headed. Are we building a stable foundation for the future? Or are we just piling more weight onto a system that may not be able to hold it? It's a strange feeling, isn't it? To live in the most advanced age in human history and still not be sure if it's sustainable. So the next time you miss your train, or your burger isn't hot enough, or someone cuts in line at the supermarket, take a breath, zoom out, and remember just how rare and special this moment really is. This entire human world, how we live, how we connect, how we dream and create, it's all the result of an incredibly long, chaotic, and brutal journey. We were once just a small group of curious primates, trying not to get eaten in the wild. We discovered fire, we made tools, we painted stories on cave walls, we farmed, we wrote, we learned to count the stars and split atoms. And now? We're rewriting DNA, building AI, exploring the universe, not with myths, but with machines. And yet, through it all, we're still just human. We still cry. We still fall in love. We still argue about silly things. We still wonder who we are and why we're here. That's kind of beautiful, isn't it? Yes, we dominate this planet, but our grip is fragile. One asteroid, one virus, one stupid decision, and everything could change. But we have something no other creature has ever had. The ability to understand our place in the universe, to choose where we go next, to take everything we've learned from our past and use it to shape what comes next. Let's go back one last time. 6 million years ago, we split from the apes. 2.8 million years ago, the first humans appeared. 200,000 years ago, modern humans were born. 50,000 years ago, we began to innovate and cooperate like never before. 12,000 years ago, agriculture gave rise to civilization. 500 years ago, science began changing everything. Just a few decades ago, the digital revolution transformed how we live forever. And now, we're standing on the edge of whatever comes next. We're shaping the world more than ever before, from ecosystems to economies, from nanotechnology to space exploration. We've gained incredible power, but with that power comes great responsibility. We have the chance to build a future that's brighter, fairer, and more amazing than anything we've ever known. Or we could let the whole structure collapse under its own weight. That's the big question. Will we use what we've learned to protect this fragile world? Or will we let the skyscraper fall? For now, all we can do is keep climbing. And when it all feels like too much, or the world just seems too chaotic to handle, just pause.